or who knows. So just to make sure everyone understands, I believe that Lori sent out an email this morning on clarification. We do have two separate meetings today. They are going to run right into each other, by the way. So we're not going to take a break, or we may take a 5-minute break or something like that. The first meeting is fully the current board, the IBT, because your terms you're still stuck until July 31st. So that's the first board meeting, and we're going to consider some of the things that we deferred from our last special meeting around the Blue Beret membership directory and adoption of a budget, right? That's going to be a
Eric, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Stephen. Okay, yes, I can. So that's the first meeting.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Stephen, I can hear you. Can you hear us? Okay, let's assume that we're okay. I talked to Stephen yesterday, and like anything, if a president is not able to attend, then he will defer it to someone else, probably his first VP. We'll see how that goes as part of the roll call. Our second meeting, though, is new for all of us, right? This is a reorganization meeting. Ostensibly, it's a simple vote. If we have more discussion today, then that happens today in the second. I will be recusing myself as once I kick off the second meeting, just to avoid any perception of conflict of interest. Mona Heath, who led our standing committee, will run the second meeting. I have to remind you guys, though, that if any legislative items get addressed today, it is still the current board, because the new board doesn't take effect until August 1st. So let's hope that doesn't happen, but we'll see how that goes. All righty, so let's jump into the first meeting. Terry, would you mind doing roll call for us, please?
My pleasure. President Eric McHenry.
Present.
First Vice President Per Hamquist.
Present.
EC Member Karen Fisher.
Present.
EC Member Millie O'Donnell.
Here.
I'm here. International Treasurer Matt Hackney.
Present.
Immediate past President Ty Mott.
Present.
Region 1 President Bard Fuller. Is Bard not here today?
I do not see him yet, Terry.
Okay, is there a vice president from his region, Region 1 here today? Okay, I'm going to mark Mr. Fuller as absent. If he comes later, if anybody sees him, please let me know. Region 2 President RJ Marquette.
Present.
Region 3 President Christine Baum.
Present.
Region 4 President Brad Briggs.
Present.
Region 5 President Artie Martin.
Present.
Region 6 President Larry Madden.
Present.
Region 7 President Ginger Slattery. Ginger was going to maybe be late. Is she here?
I'm here. I'm
Oh,
here.
there you are. Hi, Ginger. Glad you could make it.
Thanks.
Region 8 President Greg Vadner. Is Greg with us this morning? I'm sorry, was that?
I do not see him, Terry.
Is there a
Terry-
region?
Terry,
Is there-
Greg had made a comment that he thought it was more appropriate his vice president come. I think I saw that in the board effects notes.
Is there a vice president from Region 8 here today?
Present.
Who is that, please?
Rick Everson.
Hi, Rick. Good morning. And I've got you down.
Good morning.
Okay. And Region 9 President Nancy Fitzgerald minus Botox.
Present.
Region 10 President Kathy Giese.
Present.
Region 11 President Stephen Parr.
Terry, Stephen, he keeps coming into the meeting and I keep trying to promote him into a panelist and he keeps declining and he's dropped off the call. So I don't know exactly what's happening with Stephen right now. I'm gonna try to promote him again and hopefully he can be verbal.
I did see Julie here. If Stephen doesn't
Yeah,
work.
can you hear me?
Yes, Stephen, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Yeah,
Good
I'm on
morning.
the road right now. Good morning.
Good morning. I'll mark you as present.
Thank you.
Region 12 President Laverne McHenry.
Present.
Parliamentarian Joanne Miller,
Present.
Corporate Manager Lori Plummer.
Present.
Mr. President, we have a quorum. And I don't know how should we, is there some official way to promote Rick Everson to be replacing Greg Badner? Or do we just say he is replacing Greg Badner?
He stated that he is, and so he's voting for Region 8.
There we
I
are.
think He's already been promoted into the Zoom meetings. I think we're good to go.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, great. Thank you, Terry. So I'm going to hand most of this directly over to Matt Hackney. By the way, and some things may go out of order. Matt and I were going back and forth on the agenda items. I hope you guys are okay with that. I think it's consistent with what you all talked about. My only editorial is I just want to thank the region presidents and those of you that joined them about 2 weeks ago for taking the time, 2 hours or so, to contemplate these issues offline and hopefully come back with some more discussion today. So thank you for that time. I think that's a lesson that we've learned in the past and worked really well. All right, Matt, I'm going to pass over to you, and you can run the agenda items as you wish, in the order you wish to run them in.
Thank you, Eric. So I'll assume unanimous consent for reading the treasurer's report first. That miscommunication on my part, I had intended to read this first. You all should have a copy on board effect. It's listed under 10.3. I want to thank the members of the IBT for working through this budget. It's been a real challenge to incorporate all the initiatives from the strategic planning meeting in Jackson Center, couple those with pending acquisition, and align those with the necessary consensus on changes to the Blue Beret. I appreciate the input from the region officers, especially Brad Briggs, Christine Baum, and our historical standing committee, including Chair Joe Poplinski. Today, I bring forward 3 separate motions, one revising bylaws, one revising policy, and the last bringing forward the operating budget for the coming year. These reflect the consensus position reached after 2 months of discussions. The major changes brought forward in these motions are changes to our club publications, the Blue Beret and the club directory, continuation of the ability for members to obtain a printed copy of the club directory, elimination of the Identity Benefit Program started last year, a balanced budget with an allocation to begin building a designated reserve fund, full funding for the region officer travel for travel to their local clubs at an increased reimbursement rate, an absence of funding for international officer and executive council travel, and inclusion of the income and expenses associated with the pending acquisition of 707 East Pike Street. Of these changes, those related to printed publications have brought the most interest, discussion, and concern. I want to reiterate that costs have and will continue to increase rapidly for print publications. And as Nancy Fitzgerald suggested, I have presented you with a very simple bar chart showing you how income income and expenses for that publication have gone. And Artie, this should address a question you had as well. This goes back at least a few years. It doesn't go back to when they were balanced, but you can at least see the recent growth in the expenses and not so much in the income. It's important to note that costs are going up. The costs of printing and postage were significantly higher this year than in the past. Additional postage rate increases are scheduled for the coming year. It is also important to note that advertising income for the period has been essentially flat. Some advertisers are exiting print media entirely as they can better track effectiveness and target their message with digital publications. We're excited by the opportunity to increase our advertising income in the coming years as a result of these changes. Some on the IBT pointed out that the Blue Beret used to be self-supporting, and as I pointed out, you can see it has not been the case recently. But we believe with this change, it will become more than self-supporting. I also want to thank Eric McHenry and Joe Poplinski for developing a proposal to fill a void in our current digital directory. During our discussions, it was noted that historical information, including past offices held and numbered caravans taken, did not port over when we implemented the new system. Work is planned to fill that gap to ensure the club directory in the future will again have all the information we've had over the years. And finally, it's been my pleasure to serve this club and this board over the past year. Respectfully submitted, Matt Hackney, International Treasurer.
Thanks, Matt. Would you like to entertain any questions from the board on your treasurer's report?
Absolutely.
Okay, please use the Zoom button to raise your hand if you have questions for Matt before we go into the motions. Okay, nothing. All right, Matt, would you please present your first motion, which on our board effect is labeled item 10.1, remove requirement for printed directory and Blue Beret. Please state your motion.
All right. Remove requirement for printed directory and Blue Beret. This motion updates the way publications are provided to club membership by providing the following. Publication of a monthly electronic edition of the Blue Beret. Publication of 4 editions of the Blue Beret annually, which may be received as an electronic or print edition. Creation of an updated downloadable PDF version of the club directory. Continued use of the online club directory and availability for a printed copy of the club directory. I move that WBCCI bylaws, Article 3, committees, Article 4, membership and membership privileges, and Article 12, official publications, and Article 13, use of club name and emblem, be revised to remove the requirement that the Blue Beret directory be issued in print form, and to remove the language of a single directory update during the year. Specific changes proposed are in Article 3, Section 3, item A, delete and insert a new item A. In Article 4, Section 12, item B, delete and insert a new item B. In Article 12, delete Section 1, insert a new Section 1. In Article 12, delete Section 3, insert a new Section 3. In Article 13, Section 5, delete item B and insert a new item B.
Thank you, Matt. Joanne, I believe this is, since this is from a standing committee, it does not require a second. Is that accurate?
That's correct. No
Okay, great.
second is needed.
Thank you, Joanne. All right, Matt, can you state the financial or any other related items to this motion, please, before we see how the board wishes to go on this?
I believe as custom is to read the purpose and impact.
Yeah.
Okay. This motion would eliminate printing of an annual membership directory, replace it with a downloadable PDF version, updated on a quarterly basis. Furthermore, members have the option to request one printed spiral bound copy of the club directory, which will be available in the first quarter of each calendar year. The handling and shipping costs will be covered by the member. This motion will also reduce the number of print editions of the Blue Beret to 4 per year, while maintaining a monthly electronic edition. Background. The cost of printing and mailing the Blue Beret and the membership directory is one of the largest single costs in the club operating budget. The timeline for submitting articles, editing, printing, and mailing the Blue Beret limits the timeliness of information contained in each edition. Digital issues have far fewer restrictions on size and offer authors, readers, and advertisers additional features and options. Finally, the renewal period for members is no longer based on a single expiration for all members, making a single printing of the membership directory an outdated practice. Additionally, advertisers have expressed interest in moving to digital publications where effectiveness of ads may be measured. Financial impact: these changes are estimated to bring approximately $95,000 in savings and could result in an additional $30,000 in advertising revenue per year.
Thank you, Matt. Do I have any discussions or questions from the board? All right. Hang on a second, John. Let me first see if any objections from the current board first. Okay, I recognize Ginger Slatterly, Region 7 President.
Slattery. The one question I have is the spiral bound directory, as if it's requested, what will it contain?
So the content of the spiral bound, if you look at, and we'll cover this in the policy, I think better it'd be deferred to the policy because the policy has a proviso that contains a committee formation to determine what would be contained in that directory.
Okay, thank you.
Ginger, you're okay with that? I think she froze. Okay, next, any other questions from the board or vice presidents? Region vice presidents? All right, none. John Becker.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that I read and heard it correctly, that if I as a member request a printed copy of the directory, I pay for shipping and handling. What about the printing costs?
With your permission, Mr. President. That is included. We've included a nominal $5,000 budget to cover our staff time and printing costs.
Okay.
Okay, John, did that answer your questions? I want to make sure that we spend enough time on this. We're all okay with this. Okay, so did that answer your question, John? Okay, great. Terry Warren, and then after that, time on.
Yes, we had discussed this being available at no charge for lifetime members. Has that been changed to everyone pays?
So as a part of the policy motion, and I'll remind everyone, this is a bylaws motion. We can't pass the policy motion unless we approve the bylaws motion. The policy establishes that information. And again, it is contained in the proviso that recommends a special committee be formed to address that. Right now, there's no differentiation.
Thank you.
Okay, Ty, your hand was up and now it's down. Do you have a question or comment?
No, Terry had the question that I wanted an answer to, but thank you.
Awesome, thank you. Lori, do we have any input from members or to come in, other questions from outside the board on this?
No, we have not.
Okay, great. All right, so we're going to move into voting now. And so without objection, motion 10.1, item labeled 10.1 passes, which is remove requirement from printed directory and Blue Beret. Do we have an objection to that motion passing? All right, so moved and so passed. Thank you all. The motion passes. Thank you. Matt, please go to your next motion, which is labeled 10.2, elimination of printed directory and reduction in printed Blue Beret issues from the policy standpoint.
Thank you. And it has a slightly different, after help from Joanne and Tom, it has a slightly different title. The title is Update the Methods of Publication for the Club Directory and Print Blue Beret. Summary, revise WBCCI policies regarding publication of an annual membership directory and revise the method of publication of the Blue Beret. I move that WBCCI policy 12.4.1 club publications be deleted and a new policy 12.4.1 be inserted. Further, delete WBCCI policy 16.6.5 caravans, items G and H, and insert new items G and H. Also delete WBCCI policy 16.6.6 intra clubs and special interest groups, item D, and re-letter items E and F as D and E. Also delete WBCCI policy 16.6.10 Airstream numbers, item C3, and insert a new item C3.
All right, so moved. No second required since from a standing committee. Matt, please read the background description and financial impact, please.
Thank you. The club directory is updated on a daily basis and current information is available by electronic means. Both the online version and a downloadable PDF version, updated quarterly, provide more useful and current information to the membership. Those wishing a print version of the online information may request a copy each year by payment of billing and mailing costs. A printed version of the Blue Beret will be published and distributed quarterly. However, the electronic Blue Beret with greater flexibility on content will be published monthly. Financial impact. Elimination of the printed directory and reduction in the number of printed Blue Beret issues will reduce publication costs by $95,000 per year. In addition, the corporate manager indicates revenues from advertisers could increase by $30,000 per year with digital editions. And this has a proviso. After passage of this motion, the content of the downloadable PDF may be adjusted and the cost of printing, handling, and postage be determined. These costs will be published on the club webpage. It is recommended that the president name a special committee, including historical standing committee members, for the purpose of determining these details.
Thank you, Matt. Is there anything else you wish to read before we go to questions and a vote?
No, thank you.
All right, great. Thank you. Questions from the board first, and then for region VPs and from the audience. Per Hamquist.
My question has to do with the projected gain in revenue from advertisement. One of the comments that Matt made was that advertisers are very interested in improving tracking, something they can't really do on paper. That suggests that something is made to the PDF file to allow this tracking. It can't just be simple passive objects in the file. They actually must be click through of some sort. Otherwise, it will just be, X number of views of the entire issue. Can someone elaborate on that?
Thanks, Per. Let me offer first to Lori, our corporate manager, if you were to weigh in on that. If not, we'll move along to other perspectives.
Yeah, actually, we currently have that on our digitized version of the Blue Beret. We do have click-throughs, and we are able to use Google Analytics to provide that information to our advertisers.
Thank you.
Thanks, Per. Any other questions from the board? Region VPs. Julie, Region 11.
Good morning. Question, the comment was, could the revenue could increase by $30,000. Have the advertisers been surveyed to determine that? Is that where the determination came from? The $30,000, because now the advertisers are advertising in print, but they're also advertising digitally, potentially. So has the survey been, have the advertisers been surveyed to come up with that number?
So Julie, I'm going to pass this back to Lori. Lori, you may want to reiterate what you shared, I think at the last meeting, about some of your experience with FCIS, things like that. I think it's okay in the public forum to disclose that, but go ahead and please answer, Julie.
Yeah, so I'm not going to disclose the actual dollar amounts, but yes, Julie, as we've been, currently we have an advertising agreement with everybody who prints with us. And as they've come up for renewal, we've been having these discussions with them, and they do not want to continue in the print. Form. They want to go digital. So what we've been doing the last 6, 8, 10 months, maybe a year, is as we are starting to lose those print only, we are converting them to a combination of digital as well as Rally and other webinars, things of that nature. So that's how we're starting to build that stream of revenue from our advertisers. So it's a multiple items we are offering, and they seem to really prefer that than just strictly print.
Okay, so that sounds wonderful. Thank you.
So Julie, you good with that? I know you've got a background on this. And so any other questions or comments on this?
No, I'm good with that. That was always something that I had thought of when we were talking at the strategic planning meeting, is how are you going to maintain that revenue when you're reducing the number of printed pieces? But in fact, you've solved that issue. You've been creative about working with the advertisers to get them in front of the WBCCI members and maintain that relationship and that revenue stream. So I think that's great.
Thanks, Julie, for bringing that up. Okay, now Ginger and then Matt.
Hi, again, reading over the policy motion here, I still don't see accommodations for anybody who is not online. Everything is directed towards PDF versions. And if you're not online, you can't download a PDF. And the information that's only available on that PDF will have the phone numbers and the addresses of people that they're going to be trying to look up. And I don't see that that's going to be included in the printed edition of the directory.
Okay, Ginger, I understand your question. I'm going to ask Matt to reiterate and clearly break apart the PDF downloadable printable from the spiral bound traditional mailed out. If you could share that, just to reiterate that, I think it'd be helpful.
Absolutely. So the intent is that the PDF downloadable content will be determined by the proviso we already talked about. The printed version will be a reflection of the database as it currently sits, and it will be a print of that content. The current content you're talking about is contained there, but I will caution you, there is a concern about personal information being printed and being available. So that committee will probably talk about that issue as well. Eric, please correct me if I'm wrong, but right now it's in.
So Ginger, did that clarify that there, because I think everyone has to understand that. I know it gets a little confusing in the words we use, but the policy that's being proposed by, well, is that there will be a printed, just coming out from HQ, it'll come to your physical mailbox once a year by request. So Ginger, I want to make sure that we captured your thoughts on that. I lost you on screen.
Sorry. Yeah, I just want to make sure that our members who are not online, and we do still have quite a few, depending on areas they live in or time they were born. I just want them to be able to get the same information that they currently get. That's my big thing.
Okay, and the other part of the proviso, of course, just to make sure everyone understands, is that the president, starting August 1st, will launch a special committee, probably fairly short term, a month or two, to decide what's going to be in that printed one, the one to come out once a year that gets mailed to the mailbox. I think that you indicated you were interested in being part of that. I think it'd be wonderful if that's still the case.
Yes.
All right, let me go down the roll. I think that Karen, and then Lori, and then John Hawley, unless Lori, you wanted a clarification in there.
Yeah, I was just wanted to jump in to clarify. So members right now that are not online, call the office. They can call the office and we will send them whatever they want to send. You know, if it's the blue book, we will print that for them if that's what they want, and they just pay shipping. So that is a customary service we already offer for all of our members, number one. And number two, just as education, our current printed directory does not include phone numbers. It hasn't for 20 plus years. It's only emails and addresses that are in the current printed directory. So when the next group comes together to talk about that, just think about that again for the future. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Lori. Karen, and then John.
Yes, and thank you. I'm not turning my video on. I don't have a strong signal and I seem to get better reception without my video on. I apologize for not being present that way, but I want to point out that, again, just for clarification purposes, because I've heard here a couple of different things and they seem to be not always in agreement. So at the bottom of page 9 and the top of page 10 of the book for the meeting book, actually at the top of page 10, the number 4, the PDF version of the directory will be made available for download on the club website and will be updated on a quarterly basis. Number 5 says the PDF version of the directory will include names and addresses of members and the big red number, email and telephone information. So that's the information that, if this motion passes, will be in our policy. If the committee decides something different, the special committee that's going to be appointed, we'll have to make sure that we go back and make sure that whatever their recommendations are, they coincide with the policy that may be approved shortly. That's all.
Go ahead. Thanks, Ken. Go ahead, Matt. I think you said that, but go ahead.
Yeah, so I have a bit of information, additional information to provide. This is the current language in our policy. It's unchanged. I thought it best, if we're bringing together a committee to make a decision on content, that we should leave the language unchanged. We've been out of compliance for quite some time with our policy, And as I think most of you know, I firmly believe we should comply with policy or change it. But in this case, we have a group coming together who will then make an informed decision and advise this group for a future policy change. I hope that helps.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. And just to remind you guys, we do have some time on this. The annual printed directory comes out in December or January. And so there is time, if the special committee gets launched right after this meeting, to come up with the decision about what goes in for December. I think, Lori, you suggested that that work needs to be completed and approved by the board by when to get it printed in January? What would you guess?
October 1st would be ideal.
Okay, all right.
Um,
So we have
yeah.
3 or 4 months in. All right, thank you. Let me keep going down the board list. John and then Jim.
Good morning. It's interesting. We have some members that don't have online access as well in Region 11, not too many. And Lori just explained it, which I didn't realize, and maybe Ginger could pass that on to her members, that it is available through the office. Brad Briggs came up with a solution. He says he actually mails out those things to people that don't have emails or can't get online. I remember at the last meeting you said that. But Lori, you explained that. I appreciate the explanation that people do have accessibility to all of that if they just call the office. That's all I wanted to say. It's a good point.
Thanks, John. Good point. Jim Cott.
Yes, thank you. I don't have standing on this discussion. I'm a board member elect, but I wanted to respectfully disagree with my friend Matt's suggestion that we not change the policy as we are reworking this. Rather, go ahead and correct it while you're at it on the top of page 10 and state it the way we intend it to go. Yes, the special committee can rework everything they see fit, but why put in something that we know is against our accepted practice and that we don't seem to want? Fix it now. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. I'm going to look. Go ahead, Matt, before I ask Joanne her thoughts.
A very simple explanation. It's currently policy. The IBT has not previously decided this question. We have a special group coming together and they will bring something to the next board. I did not want to cloud the issue with this change with the personal information question. I simply wanted to keep it a simple yes, no on a as simplified basis as possible. So I understand, Jim.
Okay, so for the rest of the board, the process, if the current board wishes to make a change, then when I call the question, the board has the opportunity to say no on consent, to object to it and introduce a friendly motion or unfriendly motion if that's what the board wishes to do. Terry, questions?
So if we decide this now, I mean, we'd be going through this whole process in this meeting to decide what to include or not include. Is that right? If we didn't accept it as it is? Or is that wrong?
Well, unknown, but the process is what I said is that soon I'll be asking for if there's an objection to passing as is. If there's an objection, then a board member of the current board has the option of offering up a friendly amendment to it. And we've done this before many times, and the board can decide if in fact we want to include a friendly amendment or leave it as is. That would be the process, not getting too ahead of ourselves.
So someone would decide, one of us that's currently on the board would decide what should be included versus what's currently
I
included?
think they would offer a friendly amendment or an amendment, and the board would deliberate that. If passed, that would be the case. If not passed, we'd stick with it as is. Joanne, let me ask you for clarification, and we can hopefully move on to see if we're ready to vote on this.
Well, at this point, because you're ready to vote on it, it's not going to be considered a friendly amendment. It would need to be an amendment to this motion. And then if the amendment was approved, then you would have to vote on the motion as amended. So there would be two votes.
Thank you. Okay, so Lori, then I'm going to go see where we are on the voting after this.
Yeah, I would just encourage the board to pass as is and create that committee to look at this, because somebody may, my concern is if somebody be like, oh, I want this in the directory and we're not able to digitally grab that easily, we may be putting things in our policy that we're not able to obtain. So I would really encourage the group to do a special committee to determine exactly what we want in the upcoming directories. That's it.
Okay, so I'm going to try to get this to a vote, but first, are there any other questions or comments from the board or region VPs or from the audience? All right, good, thank. All right, so without objection, the motion as stated passes. Do we have any objections to approving the motion as stated? Okay, without objection, that motion passes. Thank you, Matt. And again, for people that may be watching now or later, this is not a rush decision. The region president spent a fair amount of time a couple of weeks ago deliberating possible ways through this. Karen, I see your hand up. We're going to be moving on to the next one though, because that one has already passed.
Yes, I know. I just have a note. I noticed Bard Fuller is in the
Yeah, so I've been asking to promote him to a participant and he's declining. So I'm working through that with him. Thank you.
Okay. Yep.
Okay, Matt, I'm going to pass it back to you now. And now we go to the budget adoption, item 10.3.
Thank you. Adoption of the operating budget for 2023-2024. Summary: adopt the operating budget for the fiscal year beginning August 1st, 2023. I move that the International Board of Trustees adopt the attached operating budget for the fiscal year beginning August 1st, 2023, under the powers provided in the WBCCI Bylaws, Article 8, Board of Trustees and Executive Council. Section 1, General Powers, Item A3. Notable changes in this budget include elimination of funding for the Amenity Benefits Program initiated last year, and changes associated with the publications motions separately provided and approved by this body. And I did want to point out, from the standpoint of being conservative in budgeting, while we included the $95,000 in savings in this proposed budget from reduction in print publications, we did not increase the forecast revenue by the $30,000 we believe we'll see. It is my hope that the next board within the first or second quarter will be able to go fund something they choose, like international officer travel, based on an increased revenue stream.
Thanks, Matt. Okay, so we don't need a second on this because it comes from a standing committee. Are there any discussions from board members? And by the way, I have to just remind everyone that, because I got asked this question a couple of days ago, we do not publish on the public website our detailed budget. Historically haven't. Matt, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so actually, this budget is available as a part of the meeting agenda. So members can go in and access the meeting agenda. The proposed budget is there. The minutes of each meeting after a budget is passed reflect the treasurer's quarterly report and will generally include the financial outline of the year-to-date financials, as well as the opinions of the treasurer on how things are going. And hopefully in the future, it'll include comments from the whole finance committee. I hope that
fantastic. Yeah, that's great. I think more transparency is the best. All right, any questions from the board on the budget? Terry?
I don't have a question, but I'd like to say, Matt, that you have been the most thorough treasurer of this organization that I've seen, and I've been part of it for a long time. And I think you did a fabulous job and I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, totally. Any questions from the board on the budget before we move to a vote on adoption? Region VPs? Okay, Lori, do we get anything from the audience or members?
No, sir.
All right, thank you. All right, so without objection, the budget passes as presented by the treasurer. Do we have any objections? All right, so moved and so passed. Thank you very much, Matt. Fantastic job. I'll echo that. And with that, we're done for today. So I will formally adjourn this meeting. Terry, if you could make note at 8:40 Pacific or whatever time zone you choose to record it in. And we're going to move into the next meeting right now at 8:40. Lori, do we need to do any jostling around on panelists at all or anything like that?
No, not at this time.
Okay, excellent. And by the way, every person on the IBT plus incoming was invited to this and theoretically are on this call if they wish to be. All right, for the next meeting, first, let's do a roll call. Terry? And just for completeness, and we're in uncharted ground, let's do a roll call of the current board plus the incoming members, if you have that handy.
I don't have that handy. I'm so sorry. I didn't know.
Can
I was-
email it to you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's just start with the current board and then we'll go with the incoming folks.
All right. President McHenry,
Present.
Vice President Per Hamquist,
Present.
EC member Karen Fisher,
Present.
EC member Millie O'Donnell.
Present.
I'm here. International Treasurer Matt Hackney,
Present.
immediate past President Ty Mott,
Present.
Region 1 President Bard Fuller. I think he's with us.
Present. Present.
Thank you, Bard. Region 2 President RJ Marquette.
Present.
Region 3 President Christine Baum.
Present.
Region 4 President Brad Briggs.
Present.
Region 5 President Artie Martin.
Present.
Region 6 President Larry Madden.
Present.
Region 7 President Ginger Slattery.
Present.
Region 8 President Greg Vadner is still not here, but his replacement, Mr. Rick Everson.
Present.
Thank you. Is that right, Joanne? Did you say something?
No, I did not. Sorry.
Okay, oh, good. Thanks. Region 9 President Nancy Fitzgerald.
Present.
Region 10 President Kathy Giese. Is Kathy still with us?
She is. It took a second. Present.
Oh, hi. Region 11 President Stephen Parr.
Present.
Region 12 President Laverne McHenry.
Present.
Parliamentarian Joanne Miller.
Present.
Corporate Manager Lori Plummer.
Present.
Okay, so Lori, did you send me an email with the other
Yes.
name in it?
Yes,
Okay, thank you very much.
those are all elected officers, does not include myself or parliamentarian.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. We already got you. Executive Council Member John Becker,
Present.
Executive Council Member Jim Cock.
Present.
I already got Kathy Gazy under another role, and I also got Per Hamquist in another role. Executive Council Member Marcia Howes.
Present.
Executive Council Member Jennifer Schnattler. Is that right, Jenny, is that right, Schnattler? I saw you here. Are you there? Jenny,
We barely hear you, Jenny. You're currently muted. There you are.
Present. Can you hear me?
yes, now I can. Thank you so much. And Schnattler is the right pronunciation?
That's perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Region 2 incoming President Gary Russo. Is Mr. Russo with us this morning?
I talked to him this morning. He's traveling.
Okay, thank you so much. Region 4 incoming President Fred Keel.
Present.
Thank you. Region 6 incoming President Jan Heavener.
Present.
Is that the right pronunciation, Jan Heavener?
That's fine, yes.
Thank you so much. And we already did Rick Everson. Region 10 incoming President Florence Tremoni.
Present.
Region 12 incoming President Abe Hernandez.
Present.
Thank you so much. That's it, Mr. President. We have a quorum. No.
Yeah, thanks, Terry. So I'm recusing myself now from the meeting and passing it over to Mona Heath, the chair of our Recruitment Oversight Committee.
Hi, everybody. Congratulations to the newly elected executive council members, and welcome to the incoming members of the IBT as new region presidents.
Mona, Joanne
yes.
has her hand. Joanne has her hand up.
I know. Hi, Joanne. Thank you.
Hi, Mona. I just would like to make a couple of, or point out a couple of things. First of all, there will need to be minutes for this meeting so that the results are officially recorded. And second of all, when you start discussion, The first people that you need to call on would be the incoming IBT, which would be the newly elected EC members, the returning presidents and region presidents, and the incoming region presidents. Then you would go to the audience or the other members. Okay.
Okay, that's a lot, but I think I can do it. Thank you, Joanne. Hey, I also wanted to thank all of you who were on the 2022-23 IBT for your partnership and your unanimous approval of a new way to recruit leadership for our club. It had surprising, I think our whole committee, I think most of us were very thrilled to see 32 initial candidates and go to our members with a slate of 30 incredibly diverse, skilled, talented, and passionate members of the club. So we're happy. Obviously, there are a few things that our team will look at going forward, just to put some refinements in place and some things that we never considered would come to fruition, and we'll address those and present them to the 2023, 2024, and 25 board after that work is done. But for now, we've met a quorum for the meeting, obviously. So we're going to start off this reorganization meeting. The WBCCI Constitution, Article 8, Section 5, Item 1 states, in part, the executive officers of the club shall be elected by the majority vote of the Board of Trustees from the Executive Council members. Joanne, thank you so much for helping me with this. The number of votes necessary for election to an executive officer position is the majority of the number of votes cast. A majority is more than half. For each office, the number of votes cast and the number of votes necessary for election to the office will be provided, as well as the number of votes each candidate received. The results of the election are as follows. The office of president, there were 22 votes cast, which means that a majority vote of 12 is necessary. Para Hamquist received 8 votes, and Eric McHenry received 14 votes. Eric McHenry has been elected president for the 2023-2025 term. Congratulations. And I see that smiley picture, so we'll just go with that. For the office of vice president, there were 22 votes cast, so necessary for election would be 12 votes. Jim Koch received 7 votes. Kathy Giese received 5 votes, and Millie O'Donnell received 10 votes. None of the candidates for vice president received a majority of votes. Therefore, an additional balloting process is necessary. According to Robert's Rules of Order, newly revised 12th edition, if any office remains unfilled after the first ballot, the balloting is repeated for that office as many times as necessary to obtain a majority vote for a single candidate. When repeated balloting, we'll go to the repeated balloting if we find that necessary. But at this point, Lori is ready with an election buddy, ready to send that to all of you for you to reconsider or consider your vote for vice president to ensure that we will ultimately land with a 12 vote majority for the vice president. Lori, if you could. Thank you. It looks like you're floating on the desk, just your torso, by the way. All right, so we did not set a time limit, but if you could do this as expeditiously as possible, because we're doing it online. And so if you can do that within the next few minutes, and this would be everyone seated as of 8/1 on the IBT.
So I'm not sure how to do this.
Yeah, I don't see anything popping up.
Okay.
Oh, it would come to you via email. I apologize.
Oh, via email.
Oh,
Yeah,
email.
that was, hello. We
Hello.
were going to try and do Zoom poll, but that couldn't guarantee that you were the one voting. And not everyone had the ability to do that if they were calling in. So I apologize for that.
So to give you all some instructions, you're going to be receiving an email. It will be saying Airstream Club International, just like it did in the previous election. It is going to the 22 members that will be seated on August 1st. So that was just launched. So you should be receiving it momentarily. Once if you don't see it in your inbox, I would suggest refreshing your inbox to get that information.
I ask
John?
a stupid question?
Go.
Is there an opportunity for one of the candidates to say, I don't want to be considered in the second round, or do we can just continue with these three until somebody gets 12?
Yeah, so we can continue voting on the three, or if someone wants to step back and feels that we've got other members that they would support and are happy with that, they can do that as well.
Okay.
It's not a silly question at all. Hi, Kathy.
Good morning. And I am so thrilled that we have two candidates other than me that I think would make excellent vice presidents. So I would tell people to vote for one of those two. Thank you.
Oh, you're very gracious. I think I saw Larry Madden, and then we'll go to Artie. Hi, Larry.
Just quick. Good morning. Are the other two positions already filled, or do you want to continue with announcing who won those elections and then get back to this?
Our process is going to go president, vice president, secretary, then treasurer. But it's a good question. Artie, then Jim, and then Ty, and Kathy again.
Hi, Mona. Thank you.
Hi.
There were 22 original votes. When you sent out the email, is it the same 22, or is it all of our members?
It's everyone that will be seated as of August 1st. So if you got the original,
that's not my question. There were
it's still 22.
There were 22 total votes.
Yes.
On the original ballot. Are
Yes.
the same 22 people voting now?
Yes.
Okay, so whoever didn't vote is watching this, and they did not receive the email to vote. Is that correct?
Everyone voted. There were 22 available votes, and there were 22 votes cast. The challenge is that with three candidates, each receiving a pretty healthy amount of votes, not one of them reached the majority vote of 12.
Well, my concern was I wasn't sure, since 22 people voted, could there be more than that voting now?
No. Lori.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Artie, for the question. That's valid. Jim. Hi.
Yeah. Having served in these chairs before, knowing what's involved with them, I would like to heartily endorse my colleague Millie O'Donnell for this position. Thank you.
Thank you. That's both you and Kathy are incredibly gracious. So Ty, and then I'll come to Joanne.
Okay, we've already voted on this, and now they're putting their hat in the ring of backing up somebody. That's, some of us have already voted. So that can't be effective then, right?
Well, let's see. I'm going to ask Miss Joanne. Hi, Joanne. There you
go. Hi. Their timing was not the best here. If I understand correctly, both Kathy and Jim are withdrawing from this race.
No, you did not understand that correctly. I did not withdraw.
Okay. Then you are
Neither
still,
did Kathy.
You are still asking for votes. Is that correct?
I did not withdraw.
Okay, then you are still on the ballot, which means the ballot with the three names on it is still accurate, and the tally needs to be made.
And Kathy. Thank you, Joanne.
And I think Joanne just clarified my question. So we're good to go.
Okay. All right. We'll just wait for Lori to announce that she's received all 22.
Three people have not voted. That's what we're waiting on.
Remember when I started this whole conversation, I said there are a few things we hadn't considered. This would be one of them. It's a good thing.
We still have 2 people who have not voted. Actually, since Gary Russo's not here,
Yep.
It would be 21.
Down to 21.
Okay.
Did everybody check the submit button? Because I just happened to glance down and I hadn't hit submit, so I was one of those 3.
This is Abe Hernandez. Can somebody
Hey.
tell me what happens with that vote of Gary Russo?
My understanding is that if he's not present, Joanne, I don't know, do we go to the person he delegated in his place? Or is it just not a vote and then the total votes cast would be 21 instead of 22? Joanne, where are you?
Is there someone here representing the region in his absence?
I believe so.
I don't think anyone stepped up when Terry did the roll call, but I could be mistaken.
Lori, did we have someone in
I
Gary's
see
place?
RJ Marquette, which RJ, I see you on the screen. He is the outgoing. Region two.
Patagallupa would be the incoming region first
Correct.
VP.
Right.
I
All right,
don't,
you guys can raise hands. The old President Day in me says raise hands before you talk, okay? And I'll call on you. So, but thank you for that. Yeah, I'm not sure if it makes sense for an outgoing president to do that.
But what I'm trying to say is
Joanne.
Patty's not present.
Okay, so then we will, our new amount of votes cast will be 21 when we hit that level. Are we there yet?
No, somebody has not submitted. And the thing is, through the system, I can only see who's completed. I can't see who has not voted.
If it
everybody.
helps, if you have submitted, the system sends you an email saying your vote has been recorded.
Sure.
There you go. Thank you. John, thank you.
Okay, so we have the results.
Okay, you want to send those or?
I can display my screen.
Okay, so Millie we needed 11. If 21 votes for cast, majority would be 11. So we will have to try this again.
Okay, so every time we do this, it's $100, just so you guys know.
Well,
yeah.
So do we want to redo this same election or what are we doing?
All 3 of you still want your name in the hat, correct? Or incorrect? Jim Cock, yes. Kathy Giese? I'm calling you, hi.
Yes, I'm so confused about what Joanne's recommendation is to do. I just want to do the right thing.
Yes. Joanne's recommend, so there's 2 things. We continue to vote. And I think we're just going to still end up the same way we were, or someone recuses himself. I'm not encouraging anyone to do that. I'm just giving the 2 options and letting you make that decision from there. I see Jim Cock. Did that answer what you had, Kathy?
Yes.
Okay, I'll go to Jim and then Terry, I'll get you in a sec. Hi.
If it does not exceed my authority nor offend the rules of Roberts, I would withdraw my candidacy for vice president.
That does not exceed your authority, and I don't think Robert is on the call, so I don't think he would be offended. Thank you. Terry?
That's what I was going to ask. Could these two still withdraw if they wanted to?
Yes. Yes. Okay. So Kathy, I see your hand still up.
Yes, I will withdraw as well. Save us $100.
Thank you. Matt, could you add that as a line item, revenue on the next budget? That'd be great. Okay, Joanne, are you
Yes.
good with that? Or okay. All right.
Yeah,
Well,
that-
then,
That's fine.
all right. So with the graciousness of Kathy Giese and Jim Cock, Millie O'Donnell is now elected vice president for the 2023-2025 term. So congratulations all. Very well done, everyone. Thank you. Okay. And now we get to, this is going to be a tough one. Continue with the results. For the office of secretary, 22 votes were cast. 12 were necessary for election. And Terry, you far exceeded that threshold with 22 votes. You are hereby elected secretary for the 2023-2025 term. Congratulations. All righty. The treasurer's position was not placed on the ballot. No one chose to run for this position. Therefore, it was not filled during the election process. Now that the other executive officer positions have been filled by election, it's time to elect a treasurer. According to Constitution, Article 8, Section 3, the international officers are all elected from qualified candidates on the Executive Council. All Executive Council officers shall be elected from the Council by the International Board of Trustees for a term of 2 years. The qualifications for an officer position are provided in Bylaws Article 8, Section 5, Item 2. A candidate for an executive officer position must serve a minimum of 1 term, 2 years, on the IBT, either on the council or as a region president, before being considered for an officer position. Per Hamquist has expressed his willingness to serve in this position of treasurer. Is there anyone else interested in filling this position? Millie, I see your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Mona. I have a couple of questions about this. I had considered running in the beginning, and I see that Per has done that, and I'm really grateful for that. But I really think we need to take a step back and think about what we're doing at this moment, rules aside. And no, Joanne, I'm not trying to push the rules aside. Don't yell at me. But the coming year or two, we have some pretty significant changes financially and budget-wise coming up. We've had some great treasurers in the past, nothing against them. I don't think we have a properly qualified candidate among us at this point. I think we need someone who has a heavy-duty financial and possible real estate background. We're looking at investing in a large piece of property. We're looking into some major changes, and I don't want to see us rush to a decision. Please, Per, don't take offense to this. I love you to death, but neither one of us are qualified for this. I think we need to stop and think, take a beat, maybe put this off a minute if we have to. Just my thoughts.
Thank you, Millie. I just have one comment, and I will move on to Joanne, who will probably expand on that. Qualifications are that you're a member of the club, that you have been elected to the council, and that you have served 2 years on the IBT. And with that, I'm not giving an opinion one way or another. I'm just stating that. Joanne, I'll go to you. Then I saw Matt, and then I see Tom.
Okay, what I wanted to clarify was the process that has been adopted through the Constitution, the bylaws, and the policy. It's my understanding, it has been agreed by the IBT in the past that we would not make any changes to this process for the first election cycle. Now, as a result of what we have seen, we have now discovered that obviously we didn't think this through very carefully, and we've got some areas that need some modification and some revision. But now is not the time to make those changes. We need to live with what we have right now for this term. And as Mona said, she repeated the qualifications for an office. We have someone who has stepped forward to fill that position. She has asked if anyone else is willing to fill that position. And once we have a list of those people that are willing to volunteer, you will vote for one of those people to fill in as the treasurer for the next 2 years. Now, I fully understand there are a lot of financial questions and concerns that people have, but I also know that in the past, there have only been warm bodies sitting in the treasurer's position. Not you, Matt. Trust me.
Nice boo-boo face.
Well, I have sat next to these warm bodies, so I know what I'm talking about. I don't consider Pear or anybody else who's on this board who might volunteer to be a warm body. I think with their intelligence and their experience, plus the experience of a very well-qualified financial committee, I think you can survive 2 years with electing one of your EC members as the treasurer. And with
Thanks,
that,
Joanne.
okay.
Okay, so I'm going to go to Tom, just because they kind of counterbalance here. Then I'll come back to Ty, Matt, Matt, and Jim.
Thank you very much, Mona. I would like to just reinforce what Joanne said. And I would also like to comment to the fact that we have made a very significant change in the standing committees in the last year. And one of those changes was the formation of the Financial Standing Committee in place of the Budget Committee, which we had before. That Financial Standing Committee is composed of people who are far, far more qualified than any of us to deal with the financial issues of this particular club. The chair of that committee is the treasurer. The chair interacts with them and carries back to, in this case, back to the EC, or may enlist the members or a member of the financial committee to attend to the EC for any of the financial decisions that need to be made. And I think that we need to recognize what we did in forming that committee and the strength that we put onto that committee and its value to WBCCI. I'd also like to reinforce what Joanne said about warm bodies. I've been in this club for almost 20 years. And it's been my experience that, yes, we have had conscientious people who have served as treasurer, but few, if any, have had the qualifications that we see on our financial committee. And that's not a reflection on Pear, or it's not a reflection on anyone here. It's just the truth. And I think that if you all will think about it seriously, the majority of the financial decisions and the financial work that's been done in the club has been done by headquarters. We have an exceedingly competent corporate manager who has handled many of the financial issues. Now we're dealing with more serious ones, and we have a financial committee that can handle that. So I would strongly recommend that we move forward with Pear, his offer to be the treasurer and essentially by our policies, the chair of the finance committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm a little rusty at this, catching all the hands. Matt, we'll go next with you. Ty pointed out you were up before him. So we'll go Matt, Ty, Jim Cock, Eric, and Jenny.
So thank you, Mona. I wanted to point out that we were well aware of this deficiency when we were looking at reorganization of the standing committees. And I was well aware that I was unqualified to be a treasurer, but I met all of the qualifications Mona, or that Joanne and Mona reiterated for you. And I will also tell you that as soon as
your predecessors on the IBT approved the finance committee, I enlisted 2 expert individuals, one being Alan Rabb, a retired CFO from Coca-Cola, and Christine Kirk, who's a retired CPA and senior partner in an accounting firm. And so I feel very strongly that you have the support, and you have been using that support in the second half of this past year. I feel very strongly that Per would make an excellent treasurer with that council, and I would recommend that you comply with the Constitution or change it in the future, but certainly finish this election. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. And I love that you have Chris on there. Thank you so much. Ty.
I agree with Joanne, Tom, and Matt. Okay, I think we need to follow through on this process. I think Per would be a great asset for us on this. He'd chair the committee. We have a financial board that will be helping him through that. And I highly recommend that we don't do any changes to this, that we have to follow the Constitution and bylaws at this time.
Thank you. Jim, I see that your hand is down. Is it up again, or have you withdrawn your comment?
My hand is not currently up.
Okay, thank you. All right, so next we go to Eric and then Janie.
Yes, I'm not going to weigh in on any candidates. I'm going to just ask that as a board. Well, this is a new process. I think we've done a remarkable job starting from scratch. I think in terms of what's best for the club operations. And I also think about the fact that our board, not necessarily, no offense, Tom, Joanne, Matt, but the ongoing board who will have to live with the result of what we decide today. I would like to see if there's a way that they can have a chance to think about it and weigh in some more. I think that we probably don't have to make a decision by July 31st, but certainly we have until August 1st when the new officers come in. And one of the problems that I've always noticed with decisions like this is that we have probably 2 or 3 other people that after some consideration may choose to put their name on the ballot for treasurer. All of us, so you guys know the process we just went through, all of the 6 of us that were eligible, we had the opportunity 2 months ago to pick which roles we wanted to run for. And no one picked treasurer apparently. And I think that a number of us may want to give some consideration to the job of a treasurer, what the impact would be, the supporting structure, and to try to ask people to do that right now after learning the election results 10 minutes ago seems a bit rushed for no clear reason. You know, Mona, my proposal, which I've shared, is that this is a big deal for the board. And I think you guys have noticed in my past year of leadership that we don't want to force something onto the board. And I know from talking to a number of you that this is a serious consideration. And I would like to see if there's a way that we can give the board some more time to think about it, as well as give other people who may be interested. There's 2 or 3 other people now to give some thought to it, think about it overnight, a couple of days, and then have another election. We just showed that we can do electronic ignition. We can do electronic election with 5 minutes of notice. So that isn't something that precludes the ongoing board from making a decision on who their best treasurer is. The last point I want to make is that, again, as your incoming president, and this is no reflection on any of y'all, but even though I've run a $300 and $400 million operation and had a budget of that big, you know, I don't think I'm qualified to be treasurer for the types of things that we're getting involved in. Our club, as you guys know, it's not just looking at our membership growth rate like it used to be in past years, where a figurehead treasurer made sense. Matt has done a phenomenal job, but I would also argue that we're looking at buying a building. We're looking at building an RV park. We're looking at building in strategic partners and investments. We're looking at building our reserve policy. We're looking at building our reserves, potentially our rates. And so those are far more complicated topics that this board is going to be faced with this year than we've never had before. And I think there's room to talk about how to best fill the position and not try to force it today. Those are my comments. I hope that we can figure out a way to wait on this and not force it today, give people who may be interested also some thought to think about what they want to do. I think it's a question for both the new board and the existing board. And again, no offense to the parliamentarian and the CBL people. I think this is an operational question, not a bylaws and policy. I think we need to figure out what the board wants to do. And the board has the ability, by the way, to change bylaws and policy. As some of you may know, there is a proposed special motion.
We're going to need to, yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to
No,
cut
we
you
need
off,
to, and
but I've
that's
got
me.
5 other people
The
here.
board has the ability to do a special motion between now and the end of July to figure out how to address this. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Point out, I know that for what it's worth, our constitution, bylaws, and policy specifically says that we will hold this reorganization and make this selection of officers within 30 days of the election. And so that would be now. Our election was ended June 15th. So Joanne, you can correct me if I'm wrong. So I've got a list here. Ginny, you're next, but I see Joanne and Tom, and I think their input is very relevant. Are you okay hanging on just a little bit more while I get those two?
Of course.
Okay, thank you. And then I also have Artie and then Larry. Okay, Joanne, please.
Well, actually, I would like to hear what the other members who have not yet spoken have to say before I chime in again, please.
Okay, cool. I'll leave your hand up, and then Tom, I assume you're the same.
Correct.
Okay, all right, Ginny, thanks for your patience. Go ahead.
Thank you. Well, thank you for listening. I have a couple points. Number one, it's not all doom and gloom. We don't have to live with the supposedly unthought out plan. It was very well thought out, and it's a multi-factored thing. It's kind of like Knights at the Round Table. Picture the financial standing committee is supporting the treasurer. We have all these things in place. It isn't just, oh, we made a big mistake, we're going to live with it for 2 years. I don't agree with that philosophy at all. Whomever becomes the treasurer, I hope that they recognize the strength that that Matt and his team have put together in this financial committee. That's essential. That is essential. Even if the treasurer is the treasurer of the United States, you still need that team, and they put it together. So this is going to work. There's also a special proviso in our new plan that says if there is a compelling reason that somebody needs to be considered in an officer position, even though they do not qualify for the typical 3 factors, the term, a 2-year term, or having served as region president, or an officer of those kind of things. If there's a compelling reason to override that is built into this system. So we do have the option to not just have to live with what we supposedly didn't do right. I disagree with that. I think there's a lot of room here to get just the right person, and that could be pair. That very well could be pair. I'm not saying one way or the other on a person. I'm saying on the position. So I agree with Eric. I agree very, very much that Matt has put a strong backup system in place with this financial committee. So that's all that I needed to say. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Always very articulate. So thank you. Okay, Artie?
Yes. The current policies we have in place right now still appear to me to be adequate to accept hers volunteering for the position. If you take a look at Per's history, he's already been in the presidency for three years now. He's witnessed countless meetings, executive meetings. He's been a part of the organization many, many years. He has an excellent staff behind him in the financial committee. I think we're ready to make a vote. And if nobody wants to take a vote, I think, Joanne, is there a way that we can poll the group and see if they're ready to move forward with a vote? I don't see the sense in bringing candidates in that wouldn't fully commit before, and now suddenly they want to. I think that somebody's volunteered. I think that I think he's qualified, and that's just where I stand. So thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to ask this, and a head nod one way or another will suffice. Larry, Nancy, and Chris, you're like a little stick person, so I can't see your head nod. Are you guys, do you want to make comments or do you want to move forward with a call for vote? Hi, Chris.
I would
Move
like to,
forward. Move forward, please.
Larry, move forward.
well, I do have a comment.
Oh, okay. And then Chris, are you okay
Can you hear
moving
me?
forward? Okay, yes. So Larry, we'll go to you.
Comment.
Oh, okay. We'll go Larry, then Chris.
Okay, I'm just in a position where back in Savannah, when we were putting this new system together for our governors of our club, I had a number of concerns, and one was the speed at which we were doing it. Two was unintended consequences, and the other had to do with the COVID shot. This is an unintended consequence of our actions of not thinking through it thoroughly. However, that being said, with a requirement of being on the IBT for 2 years, we limited the amount of people that are available to run for the executive council. That's an unfortunate thing in the rearview mirror as far as I'm concerned. But right now, I agree. I think Pear is an outstanding candidate. And I really, being a part of this for the last 2 years, I would really, being this is my last IBT meeting, I would hate to be left out and the new class of officers make a decision on something that I was involved with from the beginning. So I think we should vote and vote today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Nancy, did you have a comment or would you like to? And then we'll go Chris and then we'll move.
Quickly, I support everything Artie said. I support everything Larry said. I am ready to move on and vote. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Hi, Chris.
Hey, Mona. I also support Artie. I support Larry. I would like to vote. I would just like to ask, and Jenny does not need to do this now, but I've looked over the bylaws, policy, constitution. I don't know where she's quoting that compelling reason from. So at some point, I would like just to have her let us know what section of constitution, policy, or bylaw that she found that in. So
yeah,
other than that, I'm ready to go, Mona.
All righty. And I think perhaps that might not have made it from the proposal to the working documents that we have, our guiding documents. I have one more question and then we're probably going to need to move forward with the vote because I see Florence. How are you doing?
I am not super familiar with all the voting rules, and I would like to be sure that there is or is not something in place that Jenny was mentioning about appointing someone whose name is not in the ring. I don't know how it all works, and I want to know before we close the book on this.
All right, so we've got Joanne and Tom, my right and left arm. We'll go Joanne, then Tom.
Well, we'll let Tom answer that, but it's my understanding that it never made the documents, but Tom can correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you are absolutely correct. That was one of the proposals that the committee came up with, and there was considerable discussion about it. And the objection to it was that a person experience with the IBT or the way it functions or the inner workings of the club. And so the 2-year requirement was made permanent, and the other option was taken out.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Joanne?
I think we're ready for the vote.
Okay, that's what we'll do.
Or, no one did step forward other than Pear, and if someone calls for the vote, we can have a vote.
Okay, I see one more hand, and I said that last time, but one more hand. John, please, and then we'll move forward with the vote.
Yeah, because if we're going to move forward with the vote, what are we voting on? Just there's a candidate and nothing else?
There is a candidate. Yeah.
Okay.
So since Pear is the only candidate for the position, without objection, Pear will be declared treasurer for the 2023-2025 term by acclamation. Millie?
I would think the vote would be a for or against. No?
There's no one, it's by acclamation, so it's without objection. And if you want to object, but there is no other candidate, so it's, what would you like to do?
Okay, I would object.
Okay. All right. So we will, Lori, unfortunately need to spend $100 and we'll send out another election buddy for all of those who will be seated as of August 1st.
Okay, give me just 1 minute. I'll process that and release
Thank
it.
you.
And it will be a yes, no vote.
Mona, while we have this small hiatus, could I make a comment or two?
Sure. Please do.
When the changes to the Constitution, bylaws, and policies were being generated over a year, more than a year ago, there was an underlying feeling on the part of those responsible, the various committees, et cetera, that we would get it maybe 96 to 97% correct. And Joanne and I, for example, have had multiple discussions about there are some tweaks that need to be made. And obviously one of them showed up when we had the initial election, or pardon me, for the officers. And the motion has been written. It will be submitted to the incoming officers and the IBT in the August meeting, which will address that one. And I think we've seen at least maybe one more tweak that needs to be done to avoid some potential conflicts down the road. We are not perfect. Government in any form always tries to be perfect, but we all know how that works. And so this is just one of those cases. It's not, you know, a insurmountable problem, obviously, but we just need some clarity. And so we will try to clarify some of the, particularly the policies. All right. So just want you to know that we are thinking about this.
Thank you, Tom. And I have a list that I've been compiling to review and discuss and propose going forward with the committee. And there are several elements there. I've seen requests for a specific job description for treasurer going forward. I've seen one for a recording secretary. So I think those things should be discussed both within our teams and at a broader level. But, you know, we knew it wasn't going to be perfect. And it was a really, in the scheme of things, a pretty tight turnaround for this nominations committee too. So I'm not looking for any whatever. I'm just trying to say we did a pretty damn good job in a tight window, and we can do a better job with a little more time to refine what we've learned over this. Terry?
If I could jump
Actually,
in
wait
here,
a minute. Oh, yeah.
jump
You got
in
it?
that it has been released. You should receive your email for this.
Yes.
Laura, I think Marcia had her hand up first.
She did. She did. She did. Marcia, I'm sorry about that.
I just want to say that I have a patient in a medical crisis and I need to leave, but I have voted and Kathy Giese has agreed to finish these minutes for me. I'm sorry, but this patient is.
It's okay. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mona, may I say something first before
Yes.
Marcia?
Yeah.
In the essence of time, I think the election can be taking place while Marcia is commenting.
Okay.
So that you can then count how many people have voted and we can find out the results.
Laura, you said you sent that, right?
Yes.
Or you sent the email for the vote, right? Okay, so we'll go to Marcia and then Tom. Marcia, thanks for your patience.
Yep, thank you. I just think some very good points have been made, but I would love for Parrott to just give us a very brief statement on why he volunteered and how he feels he would manage the role, since as we've all pointed out, none of us that were elected to the new EC came with strong or deep financial experience or background. So I'd just love to hear why Per would like to do the role, because I greatly appreciate that he volunteered.
Thank you for that request.
Well, thank you for asking.
Per, you can go ahead and speak.
Okay, well, thank you, Marcia, for asking. I was part of the team that supported and defined this new process for the structure of the club. And I understood that it presented a risk that I'd be the first one who'd be challenged in ways that others haven't in the past. I think it's a healthy process. But I also, as we were asked whether we wanted to run for international office, someone mentioned that they were going to run for international treasurer, and I thought I wanted to give that person some space, so I did not tick off that box. And so I had no idea when the ballot appeared that we would have a vacancy, but we did. And so I said, well, I know what the qualifications are. We can argue about whether they are good for a corporate entity or for the club, but they are what they are. And I felt that, well, I meet the qualifications and I'm willing to volunteer. I volunteered for the club in various positions for the past 25 years. So I don't see that this is any different. I feel comfortable with financial numbers, certainly not at the level of the members of the committee, but that's the great thing with this club. We have more than one person that does it. It's not just the international treasurer now, it's actually a financial committee. And the idea of financial committee was something I pushed hard for when I worked on redefining the standing committees. And I'm glad to see that it's evolved to what it has become now. So I think I can do a good job of being the chair for that committee and representing the club's financial interests. So that kind of summarizes it. I'm pretty pumped up about the club in general. So
thank you, Per.
Yeah.
I don't see any more hands. Eric, I think yours was up for a minute. Oh, there you go, Pat. Excuse me. Matt, go ahead.
So thank you, Mona. I just wanted to point out that I was involved with Per and Karen and Christopher Seplak in this reorganization of the standing committees. I have never met a member of the club who is more analytical and more detailed than Per in looking at options. And I will tell you that my past year as treasurer, I have felt that my role was more one of analyst and figuring out what if scenarios than it was corporate direction. It is the role of the IBT and the corporate manager under the IBT to give corporate direction. My job was to present options and try to build consensus. I think you will find in Per someone who has great background in club operations. And so I think based on the current qualifications, he is completely qualified. I'd recommend him.
Thank you for that. Lori, how go we?
Still waiting on voters. Everybody should have it.
Okay, Mona, I do, since we're waiting, I just want to share some thoughts about what I see as moving forward after this.
Okay.
One of the things that the exec council had spoken about probably a month ago was that while we were all very pleased with the process, particularly given the big change we made, as you all have said, there are a number of things that we need to take a look at in the next 2 or 3 months to get ready for the next 2 years from the next election cycle. And so I'll be asking a special committee to report out on that. I think there's a whole list of things, and whether those are acted on or not, or what the recommendations are or not, I think it's really important that the board gets a chance to weigh in on some of the things, be it in communications, be it in structure, be it in policy or bylaws that we want to recommend for the next time we go through this. Again, don't get me wrong, I think it was a wonderful process by and large, but we do need to tweak it, I think. And so it'll be more than, there's a lot of things on the table that have to be talked about. I don't think our club needs to dive into big changes. I think we're tired of that right now. I think we just have to do some tweaking. I'm going to be hoping that this ongoing board spends most of their time focusing on issues that directly benefit our members and our local clubs and our strategy. If you guys remember back in Jackson Center, we had 5 strategic items we wanted to work on, and this was not one of them, I guarantee you. So I think all of us want to focus on the things that really benefit growing our club, helping our local clubs, getting more communication out there. That said, I do think there are a number of things that need to get worked on in this next year, but those should be fairly small. So that'll kick off. In addition, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to have a special committee that looks at, so what do we have in the annual membership directory to make sure that we're not leaving our, I don't want to say older, I should say people that aren't online a lot off, out of it. So there's a couple of things we can work on that should be interesting and fun. So excited about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry.
People that have still not voted, so please complete your ballot if you could, please.
Yes, please. Larry.
Hey, I think we need to recognize a couple of guys that are going off the board, Bob Caldwell and Tom Smithson. They both served this club tirelessly. And in the last, 6 months or so, they've been invaluable to myself with some challenges I had with the club. Thank you both very much for your work, and I appreciate your time and effort for the club.
So Larry, let me just actually add on to that though. So Bob Caldwell approached me in Rock Springs, and he identified one of the things, I think John Becker mentioned also, that trying to switch out our standing committee chairs in August is probably the worst time to do it because we don't know who's leading the club. And so Bob Caldwell had offered to stay on for 6 months. John also agreed to stay on for 6 months. And unless he's changed his mind, Tom also agreed to stay on for the end of the calendar year. We want to do something though where we start to identify their replacements right away so they can work in parallel. We did this year. Lori Grassi will be the incoming parliamentarian. Lori had the opportunity to study with Joanne for about 6 months. That seemed to be a good model. So it's my expectation, unless they've changed their mind, that Bob and John and that Tom are going to stay on through the end of the calendar year, and then we'll flip during the calendar year. And that could be something we look at as a board, is that what is the best time to change our standing committee chairs? And I don't think June, July is that time. So that's kind of an update that I wanted to share a little bit later, but since you brought it up, I wanted to mention it now. How are we doing on voting?
Looking for one.
Something else we're learning is that trying to vote live in a meeting is probably not the most efficient use of our time either.
Those need to be watched again. They've got like pits thing. So one will go through a heavier wash cycle.
I don't think Bob knows. That's Bob. I don't think he knows he's.
You got to mute. There you go.
Okay.
And enjoy that wash cycle. We
I have
got
all the results. Actually, hang on, there we go.
one. All right. It looks like he has our new international treasurer for the term 2023-2025 will be Per Hamquist. Congratulations.
Hey, congratulations, Per.
Okay, with that, Mona, I think you've concluded your service for this meeting. Thank you very much for leading us through this.
Oh, yeah. I was going to thank everyone for the time and for their commitment and for the opportunity to serve.
Great. Okay,
and with that, I'm going to go enjoy my day.
So it flips back to me now. Thank you all. And again, we celebrated a number of your departures in Rock Springs. We have to figure out a way to better recognize our people going off the board. Our international rally is no longer aligned with our installation ceremonies. And so we're supposed to be doing an installation now also, I believe. And I wanted to ask Mona how you want to handle that if she hasn't left already.
She has left.
Okay, great. Well, so we'll figure it out. I don't want to keep you guys any longer, although if I could bring up the installation script, but it seems a bit odd to do it right now. I don't know. Millie, you're incoming vice president. What's your recommendation on how we do this? do now or a little bit later.
If you normally do it with a smaller audience, I would delay. If it doesn't matter and people have the 4 minutes it's going to take, then roll with it, get it out of the way.
Okay, let me find the script then, because I thought Mona was going to do this. So hang on a second and let's get it done now. So we have to bring this back again. Let's see. If anyone has a script, put it on screen, by the way, because I have to find it also. Because again, I wasn't prepared to do this right now.
Eric, can I suggest that we reschedule? I think it would be more appropriate so that only those that need to be installed are on the screen.
Okay, that's fine. You guys okay with that?
People are pretty exhausted today.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. I now conclude the meeting. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a good rest of the day. All right, bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.